So this week, we're going to be creating a level based on this concept art by Henri Matisse. And it's this just simpler, Fauvism painting that is going to let us fill in the gaps of what our level is going to be. So let's now get into workflow for working from Maya to Unity and how we're going to be doing that over the course of this next 10 weeks.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started with creating a scene for this week's assignment. So we're going to go ahead and create something similar to this, or at least get started. I think the main point for this assignment is just to get the workflow working so that we can very easily work on other assignments later in the series without having to stumble over something and stuff like this. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Unity. So go ahead and I hope you have had this installed already. Get your account set up, things like that. Go ahead and create a new project. Figure out where you want all your Unity projects to be and set it here, as I've done right here. I'm going to call this, so this is going to be your main Unity project that you're going to be using throughout the class. So let's see, CGMA level design for games. CGMA level design for games. All right, and we're going to go ahead and create this. It'll set up some stuff. Just set up a blank project. Okay, we've got a blank project here. I'm going to just, I've got some of this stuff on other windows that I've been using. Let's see, so this is the hierarchy of the scene. What's actually in this scene is the default scene, and then this is what actually exists in the project. This is the project Explorer. Okay, so here's Unity. So if you haven't used this before, or it's really not going to be that difficult, I hope. And in order to quickly sort of play and design the levels that we're going to be working on, and I'm just going to go through. Let's see. First of all, I want you to import a import package, custom package, and then I want you to basically import the the week 0 project files, which are basically most of all the files that we're going to need for the project. And then over the course of the series, I'm just going to basically release a new basically asset package every week that you can import into your active project that you're working on. So essentially right now we want you to basically bring in the main project files, and this will take just a moment. And essentially what this contains. Okay, let's go ahead. Here's Unity package. It should have everything selected. If not, just hit all, hit import. So this is basically the sort of cowboy project that I bought from the Unity store for use in this class, and this is not something that you should be able to create your own project out of. This is only for use in this class because that's what the license allows. So essentially we are just creating levels just to learn how to make levels and that sort of thing, but this includes everything that was in that project, which is basically a bunch of the scripts and the code for it, all the models and textures that we're going to need. And it really creates a really nice sort of framework that's very similar to kind of what I'm used to in The Last of Us universe, which is basically a third-person camera that's fairly close to the player, and there's some cover shooting and things like that that we'll get into a little bit later in the series. But this project sample is really useful for all of that stuff. Okay, so it's got everything imported now. Now, since this is week 1, I want to go ahead and also we're going to import week 1, and this is going to be much faster because there's much less things in here. So yeah, so you don't need to press anything, just hit import. And this will basically be everything you need for this particular week, which will include like all of the test files and stuff like that that I've gone through in my lecture, any prototypes, that sort of thing. So if you look at your asset browser here, there's a standard assets and a third-person cover shooter. This includes all the stuff basically that this is standard Unity stuff. This is stuff that's in the third-person cover shooter cowboy sort of thing. I'd leave both of these alone. The CGMA folder includes all of the instructor stuff, the stuff that I've created for my own demonstration purposes, and you'll be able to go through here week by week and see as you import new weekly packages, all the stuff that the scenes that I've used and stuff like that. For your own stuff, I've made this folder here called My Assets. So essentially we've got maps, which are sort of Maya files that we're going to be working on Maya in, that bring in here. Materials, which are basically, you don't need to touch any of these, but just so you know, this is where your materials are if you wanted to create more. And then scenes. So let's see. Let's just go ahead and get started with creating this week 1 assignment. So I want you to go into scenes, find this new scene, which is just a quick scene that I've created that's very easy to sort of start with for each of your assignments. So I'm doing Control D. Let's see, is there, can I actually do it from here? Okay, Control D at least duplicates it. And we're going to call this week 1 assignment. Okay. So I'm going to double click on this on the week 1 assignment, and it's going to bring open basically what I've created for this new scene right here, which you can use as a sort of a starting framework. So you should be able to just open this up, see this sort of steampunk cowboy guy, hit play. Oh no. And the reason why that happened, that wasn't actually on purpose, but so this object right here, this new map right here, refers to, if you look down here in the project folders and maps, there's a new map right here. So whenever you create Maya files in this folder structure right here, you'll see them appear, and what you'll want to do is select it, and by default it doesn't actually create any colliders. So over here on the right side under the inspector, you can see generate colliders. So you're going to want to click that to yes and hit apply. And then I should be able to now run this and actually stand. So isn't that nice? So this is the, let's see, the Maya file that I used, or that I used basically for this first scene, this framework, but we want to create our own for this assignment. So instead of using this one, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Maya. And I'm going to explore over to see. So this is basically my Unity projects. As you can see, Unity projects, CGMA level design for the games. This is a folder structure that got automatically created as I created the Unity project. I come in here, ignore most of this, look at assets. And then here are the things, let's see, CGMA, my assets, standard assets. So like just basically what we were looking at in Unity, it's basically reflected down here. So everything is an asset, CGMA, my assets, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go into my assets, going to go into maps and open up this new map. All right. I'm going to go ahead and create. So this is the basically the starting template. What's nice about this starting template is it already has two materials that I've created for you that are going to be very easy for putting together block mesh, and that's sort of this AutoGrid that you've got here, and then this basically non-AutoGrid. It's basically just a solid color. Now the shaders for these work pretty much just in Maya 2017. So if you're having trouble with that, there's a workaround. We can talk about that if we've got people that are wondering how that's working. But if not, let me just show you sort of how this sort of works. So just oops, there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and create this just so we know this is the different one. This is my new one. Now that we've opened it up here, what I want you to do is quickly go. Sorry, I'm just getting ahead of myself. Once you've got this sort of new map open, I want you to go up to Set Project and explore to where your Unity projects are and set it to be this new project that you created. That's what we're going to be using Maya for this sort of thing. So basically grabbing that and hit set. Go ahead and create a default workspace. Okay, so now we're ready to go. Let's save this just so that you've got your project set up for this new map file. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change this real fast. Save this scene as, instead of new map, and this is in the maps folder, I'm going to save this as week 1 assignment. And I'm going to jump back to Unity. And this scene right here is, of course, using, let's see, this one right here. But as you can see, I've created, since I saved that new Maya file, there's now a new one right here. So remember, just like this one, this new map, I had to generate colliders. Now that I have this one, I generate colliders, hit apply. Okay, now in my scene, I'm just going to drag it in. And I don't need this old one anymore, so I'm just going to select that and delete it. I'm going to set the position, 0, 0, 0. There we go. And just like that, I'm sitting in a new level. I've got my new scene that I've created, week 1 assignment, and I've got, this is using a new Maya file that I've created, also called week 1 assignment. So we can see those, as you can see in here, under my assets, under maps, we've got the new map, which was the template one I gave you, and then week 1 assignment. And then down here in scenes, we have a new scene that was a template, and then week 1 assignment. So sort of the workflow that I do is that you can play in Unity, but I do most of my work in Maya, like I do when I do my work at Naughty Dog. At Naughty Dog, we, like I was saying earlier in the lecture, that we sort of split between using sort of pre-built prefabs or prototypes, that sort of thing, and with sort of doing bespoke geometry. So I'm going to do that here for this class. So I'll sort of start kind of how I'm looking at this. So this thing is probably way too small, so let's make this plane quite a bit bigger. So the shader that's set up in here is essentially using the vertex color of any geometry to color the surface of it. So for instance, this object right here, it's this color because that's the vertex color. But if you go up to Mesh Display, Apply Color, I'll just go ahead and bring the option box up. Here we go. And select any color you want. And apply. It changes this. So as you can see here, I can select individual vertices. And kind of, if I wanted to use the paint tool, let's see, paint tool, not black, some sort of brown. As you can see, it's very useful for very quickly putting together a scene. Okay, so now I'm going to Control S, save this, bring up Unity. It instantly sees that something has changed and goes ahead to update it. So that's working, basically creating all my geometry in Maya. But the second way we can do things is by using prefabs or prototypes. So if you go to the project directory to CGMA, you see that I have a prototypes folder here. And you can create your own prototypes folder in your My Assets here, so you can create your own and use your own, but these are essentially like rubber stamps. They're basically pre-created objects that you can just quickly drag into your scene. So some foliage, drag this one in. And there we go. So depending on the designer, or depending on your preference, you may lean more towards creating more bespoke geometry or creating your worlds out of prototypes. So let me just quickly show you how to create a prototype if you want one. Let's see. So I'll save this and we'll come back to that in a second. Let's see. Under My Assets, I've got a new Maya file here that is empty except for the fact that it includes the shaders that I was talking about. So I'll put a cube in here, assign existing material, auto grid, and it's invisible because there's been no vertex colors assigned. So I'm going to go quickly, just, let's see, I'm going to make a white box. Let's just make a gray box. White's too bright. So there we go. So that is a 1 meter cube. Let's go ahead and move it there, just so it frees my transform, so it just aligns with the X, Y, and Z. See my history. Okay, so I've got this box right here. I'm going to go ahead and save it as, let's see, so under my assets, go ahead and create a new folder. Prototypes. Let's see. Standards. And we'll just call this thing 1 meter, lib cube 1 meter. There we go. Library cube 1 meter. So we're going to save this. Run back to Unity. Let's see. And as you can see, under my assets, now there's a prototypes folder. So, and a standards folder in that. So you just drag in, and you've got this cube. So the thing is that you could very easily use a cube like this to create, walls, floors, that sort of thing, if that's kind of your preference for building. My personal preference is to sort of do a little of both. I like basically building most of my rough geometry in Maya because that's kind of what I'm used to, and I really like the ability to be able to slice and dice my geo and extrude, things like that, create more complex shapes. And then for things that I want to use over and over and not have to rebuild, like things like trees and barrels and stuff like that, I basically layer prototype. I place those as prototypes in Unity, just as you've seen me do right here. But feel free to do whatever floats your boat. Let's see. But as you remember, so this is a new Unity file. It has no collision on it. In order to make that work, of course, you've got to select that and generate colliders. Apply. And there we go. Now, if you really wanted to, there's another way that you could use prototypes. So let's just open up that scene again. Let's see. One assignment. Here we go. Now, what if I went in and imported, let's see, CGMA, prototypes, foliage, that tree. Let's see, hold on a second. I wanted to make sure that I had things set up. Okay, select that. You want to have remove duplicate shading networks, so it's not duplicating extra shader networks. Unclick namespace options, I found those to be kind of irritating personally. Referencing, I don't think that's going to be an issue here, so it doesn't matter. We're just going to go ahead and import. So now we have this object in Maya. I'm going to create a couple of them. I can just go ahead and save. Come in here in Unity. Well, that's interesting. Why are they white? I think it's because I'm importing them from a different shade area. So anyway, so there's problems with doing it this way, but I just wanted to demonstrate that you can import objects, prototypes, and when you do, essentially it becomes sort of a sub object within sort of this Maya object, and you could actually select these things individually and sort of move them around if you wanted to. and Unity remembers. So since I've moved these objects around in this instance, even if I go into Maya and I, let's say, move them way over there instead, I can come in near Unity and these haven't moved, because Unity remembers that no, I specifically wanted these objects to have these transforms. But I could select this, select that object, go in here into the inspector, revert to prefab. I want to do it for that one too. Revert to prefab, and now it reverts to where this object is. There doesn't seem to be any sort of way to do the opposite, where I basically move things in here and then export out to Maya. So maybe there's a way to do it, but I'm not really sure. So I generally don't like to work that way, where I'm importing prefabs, importing prototypes into my Maya scene. I basically like to, okay, if I want to use a prototype, I use it as a prototype in Unity. If I want to just build sort of bespoke geometry and stuff like that, or world geometry, I do it in Maya. So that's kind of the workflow. So let's go ahead and get to working on this assignment, and I'll kind of show you how I go about doing stuff. So how do we go from this to this? Well, let's go ahead and get started in Maya. So I'm going to delete some of these extra prototypes that I don't need. Let's see. The rest of the stuff is actually in Maya. Wait, no, that one's not. Cube. Okay, those are gone. Okay. Now I'm just going to go to Maya. Let's see. So my player is kind of there in the center. I'm just going to go ahead and scoot this up. So the player is at 0. We don't need these trees. Get rid of those. Okay. So if we look at our scene, our image, our inspiration here, we sort of have this road sort of like slope upwards, and then we're going to have kind of some buildings up there. Let's go ahead and get started with, let's see,